From the director of Top Gun and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Hello, baby! Clarence? I'm a married man, buddy.
A con man.
Ask him if he got the letter.
Did you get the letter?
What letter?
That's about you.
No time. Tell him we gotta go.
A call girl.
You call for a date?
Huh?
I'm Alabama.
She 4-alarm fire or what? She seems very nice. What are you doing in L.A., huh?
And a suitcase full of trouble.
My name is Vincent Cocotti. I work as consul for Mr. Blue Boyle, the man your son stole from.
Now, all that stands between them and their wildest dreams.
Find out who this winging a prayer artist is and take him off at the neck.
Are 60 cops. 40 agents.
He's a wild man, this kid Clarence. I like him.
30 mobsters.
I haven't killed anybody since 1984.
And a few thousand bullets.
We're all gonna die here. These are cops!
Put him down! Put him down! Put him down!
Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Christopher Walken.
Slow it down, man.
In a Tony Scott film.
I think what you did was so romantic.
Not since Bonnie and Clyde have two people been so good at being bad. True romance.
Decent mid-period Aerosmith song. You could do worse.
That tagline doesn't really work because the whole thing is that they're not good at being bad.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but you brought it up, and it is weird. Yes,
Yeah.
I do love how there are so many shots in that trailer that aren't in the actual film.
There's got to be, and
There was
and
a lot though.
they got to confuse you a little bit. All right,
Mission
welcome to Movie Night Extravaganza, episode 63, talking about Tony Scott and Quentin Tarantino's, true romance, early 90s Tarantino, I think, or right around the time that Reservoir Dogs came out, his first script that he ever wrote. Of course, I think everybody forgets that Quentin Tarantino is also a screenwriter. And, I mean, besides his own films, like, sometimes he's written films for other people, like, Dusk Till Dawn is another one. But I am joined by, J. Andrew World, co-host, works on the Give Them an Argument show with Ben Burgess, and illustrator, everything. You already know what it is.
Yes. And I have to say, I love this fact we're going to actually break down, the transition of Tony Scott.
Yeah. Conan Neutron, Platonic Reversal, host, Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, Movie Night Extravaganza, third mic. Maybe second mic. You guys have to fight it out. Third mic, second mic. It doesn't matter.
Looks like I'm in the second slot. To me, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah. Happy to be here as always. I forgot how much I love this film, I guess, because I hadn't seen it in a hot minute. So excited to be talking about this one.
It's great. And
I saw it in high school, which is maybe the perfect time to see it. So when it came out, you can look past certain flaws that I'm sure we will get into. Anyway, yeah.
We're also joined by Ron Purtee, a Wisconsin-based show host, filmmaker, and podcaster, and proprietor of the long-running Ron Purtee Show.
Thank you. No. No. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. This is right. I think I mentioned before. This is right underneath Dawn of the Dead from 1960.
Yeah,
Oh.
oh man. Right as he was naming out his other favorite movies. God damn, it's a hell of a way to start a show, people.
Yes.
Right as is Dawn of the Dead. You know, the Zack Snyder one, the clearly superior one. I think that's what he was about to say, right?
Yes.
I think we can all agree.
Well,
Well,
oh,
here
no,
we are
he's,
with a
He's a big
portrait of
Ving Rhames
Ron
fan.
Purtee. Just talking about a movie here.
So, I guess starting this conversation off. So Reservoir Dogs was 92, right? So this comes out like a year after Reservoir Dogs, because I know that Pulp Fiction was 94. Reservoir Dogs might have been 91 or 92. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah. So this is 92.
some scintillating streaming going on here. All right.
Oh,
So,
well,
Ron
with,
Purtee will be back after these messages.
No, so this is Tarantino's, I guess, technically second movie, right? Like he comes out of the gate going hard with Reservoir Dogs, and then this movie, I guess, is the first script that he ever finished. And then it took a long time, I think, to turn into a movie and to have somebody, you know, picked out that wanted to do it. But this is a script that he worked on over a number of years. And you know, now he's kind of like the master of like the screenwriting 101 seminar, I feel like, because he teaches a lot of those. And so it's interesting that this is like the first one that he ever completed, because he said that he had worked on 35 like 40 scripts that he just never, like, he would start it and be like, oh, that's a good idea for a project, let me write this. And he would start like the first 30 or 40 pages of it, like the first act pretty much, and just like give up on it and be like, oh, I have this other idea. So he was, which is something that I did as a kid all the fucking time. Like I wanted to be a screenwriter, and I would start writing something, and then you have a million ideas for other things, and you're like, why am I working on this? This idea is so much better. And you end up kind of like shooting yourself in the foot because you never actually complete anything. So the first 25 minutes of the when he's talking on the you know, he gives like his director or his screenwriter's like audio cut or whatever. And so when he's talking over that, he was talking about how many scripts that he actually worked on that he never completed, and how many ideas that he had. And obviously Tarantino has so many ideas and characters that he just kind of shoehorns into every single movie that he does. So to like think about how many he must have come up with before completing a script that already has like dozens of characters that just kind of get like one or two lines and get shoehorned into this entire thing.
Yes, agreed. I think also one of the notable things is Gary Oldman is in this as James Franco's dad from Spring Breakers.
Essentially.
Yes,
Which
Mr.
I had
Franco-
forgotten about completely, by the way. I was like, Gary Oldman's in this film. I forgot about that.
I didn't know it was White Boy Day.
Yeah, exactly.
White Boy
White Boy
Summer,
Day.
White Boy Day. Now these days we have a whole summer for white boys. Apparently.
Yeah, we sure do.
But so this is a Tarantino, from the Tarantino talking about the process of writing this, and apparently this is the movie that he feels like is most inspired by himself, which is a funny thing to say, I guess. The character, I mean, it makes sense because he originally had started working in a video store and stuff like that. So I think that's the part he's talking about. But when he's talking about
it's also like an Elmore Leonard novel. I mean, it's really the closest thing he ever got to Elmore Leonard, and I'd say even more so than Jackie Brown, which is actually based on an Elmore Leonard book.
Yeah.
All right.
There's actually a second part to this scene, which I have no idea whether or not Tony ever filmed or not. But it's he asked Alabama these questions about herself. All right, which is actually pretty much taken from the Playboy Centerfold questionnaire. I mean, he even says, "What are your turn-ons? What are your turn-offs?" That kind of thing. And then at the end of this scene in the script, and it seems really crazy. All right, so I have no problem by Tony dropping it off, but she proceeds to tell a story of how she doesn't know who she is, and she got hit by amnesia, and she's been wandering the streets without a memory. And she's just bullshitting him, all right, you know. And Clarence catches that he's bullshitting her, and like they tease. But I was like, that's the way the scene initially ended. But one thing that's kind of funny is it was about like 6 years after I wrote it that the film got made. And so when you listen to her answers to the questions, a little of them seem kind of like cool and retro, But when I wrote it, they weren't cool and retro. They were literally, he says, "What's your favorite? Who's your favorite actor?" And she says, "Burt Reynolds." All right. Well, Burt Reynolds was a big star when I wrote this script. He was a star of the people. So it wasn't like this, like she was like being all cool and retro. All right. And the second thing he asked her, one of the other things he asked her is like, who do you find sexy? And she says, Mickey Rourke. All right. Well, Mickey Rourke was the man when I wrote this script. So again, that wasn't crazy either.
Don't peek. Keep your eyes shut.
Now, the thing about True Romance is it's the closest thing. It's the most autobiographical film that I've ever wrote. I mean, all my stuff that I've done, is I'm all over it, and I've always, sometimes people will, I don't know, who knows what people say, but the thing is, my scripts are I'm all over my scripts, and especially if you know me, you read them and you see it, and I always feel that as a writer, you should almost, when you finish a piece of work, you should almost be embarrassed by it a little bit because you were just revealing yourself. All right, the people will read it and they're going to know too much about you. I think if your writing's going to have anything, that should be the case. But just like many first-time novelists and some first-time screenwriters, my first script was about me. All right, and now I look at True Romance, and I've always felt this way, but this is a situation where it's gotten deeper and deeper and deeper for me. Is when I look at True Romance, I'm incredibly moved by my perception of myself, of Clarence, because
I'm sorry, did he just compare himself to Clarence Worley?
Yeah, he said it was autobiographical.
I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling such bullshit. Oh wow. I am not a fan of The Hateful Eight at all. Like, I think it is abysmal in my eyes. But again, that's just my thoughts.
I disagree, but go on. I want to know. I want to hear where you.
Now those comments might be the worst thing he's ever done.
Yeah, that's a bold statement to be like, oh yeah, that's basically me. And it's like, is it though? Really?
I once wore a shirt like Clarence wears out, and someone recognized it and said, "Oh, True Romance." I'm like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Can we be friends?" And they said no, and I knew because I wasn't cool enough. So I mean, for him to, and then it's like every time he talks, right? Yeah, all right. Like it's almost like he's about to have some kind of a seizure.
Yeah,
he's on the verge of it.
Yeah.
I remember a long time ago. There was some Muppet movie. He comes in for a cameo, and they're in the middle of the thing, and he stops it, and he's
for
like,
real?
Yeah,
that's a real thing. This is
and it's like Muppet Wizard of Oz or something. It's like one of the stupid ones that came later. And he comes in for a cameo, and he just starts explaining like, and then what I thought for this movie is, and he's like just pitching it, but he's doing like a really over the top version of himself. It's like, and then, and he has like this big board, and he's explaining like every single like violent thing that's about to happen. And he's like, and then she grabs a samurai sword and just starts chopping.
Well, okay, so all right, I don't know what to do with that, but I will say that I think that on rewatch, because I saw this movie a lot back in the day. Again, I actually saw it when it came out, which I was in high school at the time, and I think that there are certain things you see as an adult, like the whole beginning piece of it. I actually really like the lead up to it. I think it's kind of sweet, but it's also sort of like, all right, sure. Like it seems like sort of like, yeah, really, that's how it went down. All right. Like it seems a little bit too perfect, and so then it makes sense, right? That Alabama was put up to it to a certain degree, and so like as an adult, you're like, that explains it. But that said, I actually kind of got carried away with the sweetness of it this time. I'm like, you know what? That is like really cool. That's awesome. That like that would happen in that way. Like it's kind of like got a nice feel. And it's something that I don't think you see a lot in movies anymore. Everyone's always impossibly cool, perfect looking, and like everything has got to be a quote unquote meet cute now, which means it fits a specific set of criteria, and it's very narrow casted, appeals to everyone, and therefore is for nobody.
That's why they need to cast more people like me that look like me.
Yeah, so cast Ron Purtee.
No, but it's just it does feel like it's a little bit. I mean, too perfect with her. The whole thing when she's like, "Oh, I definitely want to go watch these 3 kung fu movies in a row with you. Definitely, let's go do that." And like, everything does line up perfectly. And then she's not there when he wakes up, and you're like, "Oh, all right." Like that explains it. But then when she's on the on the balcony, and then is like, "Listen, I need to tell you this. This is my 3rd day being a prostitute. And I'm in love with you. I fell in love with you. I've only done this
terrible at her job, apparently. Yeah, just like the worst. But yeah,
I don't know. That's when I'm like, all right, like that's that's a whole different set of like things just line up. They're like, listen, I was hired by your boss. I'm a prostitute, but I love you and I want to marry you. Let's get married right now. And if you don't love me, then I look like a fool. And you're like, all right, like I guess let's go along with this.
That makes me think though, is like, okay, first off, if Tarantino wrote this autobiographically, he has a magic penis because he makes women fall in love with him immediately. Yeah. And second of all, what person who owns a comic book store can afford a hooker?
This was during the bubble, so let's be fair.
I mean, no, 93 is when things started falling apart.
Where's the comic? That's after 93, but it was 93 was the beginnings of it.
But he wrote this earlier on.
It's comic book guy that hires worst hooker ever.
I don't know. If somebody gave me Patricia Arquette for a night, I would not be kicking around a bed for eating crackers.
Yes. I also think that I don't want to blast past it because it's the very beginning, but like when he's before the dalliance with Patricia Arquette and meeting in the movie theater, he tries to entice the woman in the bar to go see, the movie. And I find it so amazing. It's like, you wanted me to go see a kung fu film with you? No, I want you to see 3 kung fu films with me. It's like, that is like, yeah, Quentin Tarantino wrote this. All right.
Yeah, let's sweeten the pot. There's not just one Sonny Chiba movie. There's 3.
You're gonna endure all 3 of these with me because that's my idea of a good time.
And I fuck Elvis.
Right, exactly. Yeah. How can I drop the lead on that one? That's the classic.
Yeah, that was the whole thing before it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I do that's the one that made me laugh the loudest at the beginning. It was like, no, I want you to watch 3 of them with me. Oh, okay. All right.
I really like that the 2 first movies that Tarantino does. I mean, first it's the whole Madonna scene in Reservoir Dogs where they're talking about like a virgin around the table because that's what all these gangsters talk about and like getting really heated about the whole what like a virgin means. And then the second one is I'd fuck Elvis, and that's his second. That's his second.
Second time he dropped it. Hey, he didn't know he was going to get made. He's got to get it in somewhere, right? Yeah.
There's more to the whole Samuel Jackson eating pussy scene because they had to cut it because the MPA is like, no, you can't have that. That's rated X now.
Wait. So basically, what you guys are saying is Quentin Tarantino is a star fucker. I'll take your silence as a yes.
I mean, like, so, and that's, but let's think about what was happening at the time, right? This is back when, Tipper Gore was in full force.
Buying Purple Rain for her kid like an idiot.
and there's only so much that was allowed before. When did they debut the X rating? Was that I feel like that was around this time. They was like,
I should know these things. I watch enough Pornhub. Oh God, I think it was around that time because I know
it's early 90s.
PG-13 was for Last Crusade, right? Or not Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, or was it Gremlins? It was Temple of Doom, I think.
I think Gremlins inspired the need for it, but it was Temple of Doom that had the first.
Yeah, it was George Lucas's divorce movie that made us get the PG-13.
Yes. If he stayed married, we would never have PG-13.
I'm okay with that.
apparently the X rating started in 1968.
Oh, really? Okay.
The first 2 decades.
Maybe you're thinking NC-17.
I'm thinking of NC-17.
Oh.
My bad, y'all.
Yeah.
We were got the error.
1990. So yeah.
So when did Tarantino, like, I know because he also wrote, obviously we didn't see a good hunk of it on screen, but he also wrote Natural Born Killers, right? So does he also think he's Mickey Knox?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's more him than Clarence Worley is.
Yeah. Well,
I think also like the whole opening part of the movie was actually told later as a flashback. So if it was done the way it was written, those scenes would be more like an unreliable narrator, like, oh, this is how I'm going to tell the story of my life.
Yeah,
this is how I picture myself.
Yeah, no, that it would have been in like the second act or something, would have been, because he did the same thing he did with Pulp Fiction, where he took the three chunks of the movie and he mixed them around, so you'd be kind of hearing the story of what was happening in the second act, and then the third act is when they actually go to the hotel and there's a whole standoff and everything. But that doesn't come up till you hit the point where the movie's already going. He's you see him in the beginning with Christopher Walken, and he's explaining. I had a thing where he explained it, but it's like a 5-minute clip, and I don't really want to play a 5-minute clip of Tarantino explaining this. So you would start off with Christopher Walken explaining to Dennis Hopper what happened, and he'd be saying, your son came in there and he was, like a cowboy shooting, and you know what I mean, and then it would go on from there, and then you kind of find out backwards what was going on, and decide whether or not you trusted these characters' rendition of it.
Makes me so glad Tony Scott directed.
Yeah, I think it would have been a very different kind of movie. And I say that, I mean, I love Reservoir Dogs. I think Reservoir Dogs is great. I don't think there's any Quentin Tarantino movie I don't at least like, if not really like or love. I think. But that said, I fully get it when people are not into it. I fully get when people don't like the style. I feel when people think it's hacky, his homages do verge on the ripoff, and I get that, but I feel like he's good enough that it is an homage and not a ripoff. Even look at like Kill Bill, right? I mean, what's the movie that I can't remember the name of it right now, but like whatever. Like there's a movie that's like, once I found that movie, I'm like, oh, you were like, how about that? But like my friend Uma Thurman instead. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that he kind of sees and thinks in movies, like, and he's constantly referencing.
He's like an encyclopedia of film, basically. Yeah, like for better or for worse, like the guy like loves movies, right?
It reminds me of a little bit of Community, with the character that in the Community, I think Ahmed or whatever, that's like
Abed, yeah.
Everything has to be like, the only way that he can relate to people is to do it through movies. Like that kind of reminds me of who Tarantino is.
What were the Star Trek characters? They could only speak in metaphor. Like they Andy.
Oh yeah, like Harold and Kumar go to the White Castle.
Right, exactly, and that would be like to go on a quest for a thing, right?
Yeah. I forgot the whole thing, like Jamal and
at Cathargra or whatever. It's like,
yeah,
all right. And they're like, what are these dudes on about? And then it's like, oh, they only speak about. They're trying to communicate what they want to communicate, but they're doing it through like this simile and metaphor for stories that they know, and nobody has those frame of reference, and nobody knows what the hell they're talking about, which is quite a bit like some episodes of this show.
So I think a perfect example of this though is I have Tarantino talking about how he came up with the Dr. Zhivago reference when it's the cocaine, and like he's trying to explain it on the phone, and he ends up referencing it through that. And he's explaining like how he came up with that. So I think that that's an interesting place to start with, or an example of like how he comes up with those ideas.
Take a drink every time he sniffs, people.
This camouflage drug talk that they're having on the phone here. And it's I think this is actually really Clarence just being Clarence, at his ultimate. Kid, has no experience, but he has moxie, all right, and he's clever, and he doesn't know anything about Hollywood, but he knows everything about film, like as far as a film geek's concerned. So he can just through sheer moxie, he can talk the talk, all right, and gets to where he's going just through his personality and initiative and cleverness on the spot. And I really think the whole referring to cocaine as Dr. Zhivago is one of my more favorite. It tickles me constantly, and whenever I see it again, I just laugh again. I think it's one of the more cleverer things I've done, all right, because it's just, they're talking about a movie, but, when you think about Dr. Zhivago, the first thing that comes to your mind is just blankets of snow. So I thought that was pretty clever.
3. That was 3.
4.
Was there 4? The one was like on the cusp, so I didn't count that one, but at least 3.
And taking a deep breath at the same time, so it could have gone either way.
That last one was the most dramatic though.
It was a 1-minute clip, so good lord, I'm glad we didn't do that for a longer clip.
I really want to know how much cocaine this man's done.
I actually do agree that, or it could just be Slavoj Žižek. Yeah. Where's that mashup? Don't do it right now. I agree. I think that's a great scene.
And so on.
You could do Žižek as Quentin Tarantino, and then Tarantino as Žižek.
You know, I eat from the trash can of ideology.
I eat from the trash can of pussy.
It's very clear that this is a dudes only show right now. Anyway, I agree. I think that's a good scene because they're like, oh, well, if Dr. Zhivago opens, the audiences are going to be packing it. Like it's because of course they're going to be like speaking in code. I do think that's clever. I agree with him.
No, I mean it is.
When he thought he was clever, I agreed with him that he was clever. Yes.
I do think it's clever, but it's interesting that like it's film that he really, is the only thing that he's really able to reference. So like it calls back to the same thing, I guess, where it's like Tarantino's mind kind of comes up with this thing and it's like, well, let's use some drug code. What can we do? Oh, movies. Everybody knows about movies. I'm talking to a film producer. Let's mention Dr. Zhivago. Everybody knows that there's snow in that movie, and it's like, all right.
Does everyone know that? Yeah, I mean,
I don't know that. I'll be honest. I've never seen Dr. Zhivago and that's the thing. It's like I've never seen the Lord of the Rings movies, and I actually got into it. I saw that look. I got into an argument with someone because they just started shitting all over True Romance, but they love the Lord of the Rings movies, and it's like. And he's like, well, you haven't seen them. You can't form an opinion. I'm like, you're right. I can't because I just don't care. And that's the way it is with me with a lot of films. If I don't want to see it, I'm not going to form an opinion because I just don't give a shit.
That's how I feel about Titanic. That's how I feel about. Oh man, the list goes. It's like a scroll that goes down onto the floor, rolls into the next room, so on and so on.
Like Celine Dion's heart. This list will go on.
Well, my dad actually took me to see Titanic as it was closing down when there was only like a half a theater full.
There's a little bit of the ship visible.
Yeah, and so
after it hit that iceberg, you're saying.
Well, no, I'm
spoiler alert, I haven't seen it.
So as the ship is going down, my dad and I, being the assholes that we are, stood up and started applauding once we knew everyone was going to die. We were just so happy because we were sick and tired of all the bullshit. Like we were cheering for Billy Zane to win. And it was, actively because because Leonardo DiCaprio his character is not from Wisconsin. I don't give a shit. There's no way he's from Wisconsin. Doesn't say don't you know once.
So these people on the internet, Ron, that you were apparently engaging with, we will charitably say, they claim that True Romance was bad, but Lord of the Rings was good, and those are.
Oh, this was over the phone. This wasn't even over the internet, so it's somebody I actually know.
This is a telemarketer, actually. It was a very engaging.
Yeah, actually, it was very weird. They asked me, they wanted to talk to me about my car's extended warranty, and I said, I have a pink one, and it's a Cadillac. And they said, is this Clarence Worley? And I was like, no, this is Quentin Tarantino. Because, okay, all right. Because I'm actually the character in the movie, you see? So I wrote that, and it was like, it's me. So, I'm very cunning, just like he is, and quick-witted, and yeah, okay, all right, okay.
I've fallen in love with every single prostitute I've ever met. All right. I tried to get them to go across the country. They wouldn't, but one day, all right.
Get the right shirt. Yeah. Anyway, so, well, let's talk about Christian Cider, right? Like, this is a good character for him. I think this is up there with Pump Up the Volume and Heathers as far as his best roles, personally.
And I think he's disappeared. Like, what is he? Has he been in stuff?
He was Mr. Robot. Yeah, he's the character Mr. Robot's great.
Well, he did kind of disappear for a bit, but he also did go into directing. He kind of had.
He was an Archer as himself, as CIA agent,
he didn't
which is
fully
amazing.
Disappear, but
he was also in Curb Your Enthusiasm as himself.
Yeah.
But he did kind of take a little step back from being a star, but he's also been directing a lot too. He directs a lot of television, and apparently he's like. The crews love him because he actually goes and introduces himself to every single crew member before they start.
I am Christian Bale. Remember me? I really want to be Jack Nicholson.
I was gonna say Pump Up the Volume is basically his Jack Nicholson impersonation, like writ large with radio. But like, I still like it, and of course I do. I'm a freaking broadcaster. Of course I like it. It's the law. It's the law, people. But I think Christian Slater is like, he's good. Like, and like I do agree that he did kind of like disappear as far as being a leading man. And this is like one of his most leading man roles for sure. I mean, like he's kind of like supposed to be this not invincible, but like, big tough guy. Like, oh, he's doing all this stuff, and it's sort of like, okay.
Well, Patricia Arquette kind of vanished too after this until Boyhood. And hey, you know what was great about Boyhood is it took 12 years to make. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yeah,
I think I heard that somewhere.
I like it, but I get it when people don't.
No, I liked her parts, but then again, I have a weird obsession with Patricia Arquette. So
that's weird.
No, like I always refer to her as my next ex-wife, and I haven't had my first ex-wife. So.
Yeah, you're right. That is weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Lost Highway. She's great in Lost Highway. I mean,
I've only seen that once, and it confused the crap out of me because, well, I mean, let's be real here. We all know why. But
what about Stigmata,
though? It's been a long time.
It's got a killer soundtrack. That's
I like Lost Highway. I mean,
both have
I like Lost Highway. I have an original on my desk behind me. Oh, a shocking fucking development, right? But she did like Flirting with Disaster, right? She did what was the Gondry movie?
But nothing like this big though. You know what I mean? That's
a good point. Good point. But
yeah.
Something that I like about this about her character in this though is that you really you can't clock her for most of the movie. Like you know what I mean? Like, because it seems like, she goes along with it and she really wants to get out of that life, right? She wants to not be a sex worker anymore. She's apparently done it for 3 days. I mean, as long as which makes more sense when you look at it as the story is being told to you after the fact. You have to decide whether you believe it or not, because that makes it makes it make a lot more sense if I think if you're seeing it and you have to decide whether you're being told the story by a reliable narrator. But yeah, it just I feel like a lot of the movie I kind of am not. It's kind of suspicious. Like she goes along with this really easily, and then he just kind of kills multiple people, and she's like, "Oh, that's so romantic," and they kind of take off together. And then she kind of reaches her crescendo, I guess, in the the long scene with James Gandolfini.
So such a good scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a lot to say about that one, but I've been talking a lot. So, Andy, you wanna chime in this episode?
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of interesting because one of the things I like about this is that one of Elmer Leonard's tropes is a lot of his books take place in Detroit. So this setting in Detroit made it seem like Quentin Tarantino is just homaging Elmer Leonard, he homages everything else. And kind of goes from there, and it's kind of does hit a lot of those some, I should say, of Elmer Leonard's tropes, because LA is not the part of the country Elmer Leonard writes about very often. He usually it's either Florida or Detroit, and sometimes Oklahoma. But
all the best places in the US.
Yeah, no,
that's a snippet of the Elmore Leonard Show with Justice Andrew World.
Justified.
But
justified.
But I don't know how you guys or whether you guys agree with the statement that I made at the beginning of this part of the conversation, which is it feels like you're kind of feeling her out for a lot of the movie. You're not quite sure what her deal is, or whether she's trustworthy, or whether she's just kind of gonna bail on Christian Slater, Clarence as soon as she can, or because it just happens really fast and she just kind of goes along with it. And it seems like she uses her sexuality throughout a lot of the movie and her cuteness or attractiveness to kind of make sure that things are fine and good.
It worked on me.
But especially with that James Gandolfini scene, the first thing she does is she's kind of being cute, and she's like, I know I'm kind of cute and I'm pretty, and I can kind of just flirt my way through this, and maybe he'll go away. And of course it doesn't work because he knows exactly who she is. But she kind of obviously has that animalistic moment when she kills James Gandolfini's character. Virgil, I guess is his name in this,
which I feel is earned. I feel it's very earned.
Yeah.
And Forrest, I don't want to if you had more for that, I don't want to interrupt you, but I will say that there are two things that kind of like hard stopped on me for this film on this rewatch. We all know what the second one is, but the first one is like, I was like, wow, that was a brutal beating that Patricia Arquette gets in. Like, it is like unflinchingly brutal, like to the point of like, this is like harsh.
It's almost as uncomfortable to watch as the Dennis Hopper.
That's the other one.
Yeah, Christopher Walken scene.
I have Tarantino clips for both of them. I don't know if you want.
There's the way we bring up that scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have to bring it up. I mean, I honestly think we should bring both of them up because I think it's not like domestic abuse is it's aged well either, but like I had forgotten, and I'm saying this. Look, I remember how this film ends. It's like the standoff is amazing. It's a brutal movie. It's a bloody.
It's even
movie.
in the trailer.
It's even in the goddamn trailer. But like that beating that James Gandolfini character does. Oh.
Yeah, the first time I saw this movie was edited for television, so like they trimmed that down.
No, it's like a 10-minute movie. It's just about some kids who fall in love and go to LA. It's great.
Oh yeah, I did. Samuel L. Jackson's not even.
And they meet Dr. Trivago.
Yeah. You talk about Dr. Zhivago, and everyone's a good time.
And they go on a roller coaster.
It's a fun time family movie.
Anyway.
And then Balky throws up.
Which fun fact?
Balky throws up a lot. Yeah, you're right.
When they first made this movie, they were still making Perfect Strangers, and Bronson Pinchot had the script, and he was reading the script in Balky's voice. So he was playing like all the characters as Balky.
As one does.
Where's
no cousin Clarence.
Just have him do a commentary track where he replaces all the dialogue as Balky, but doing different voices.
Oh my god! Like where's that version of the movie?
All right, so this is Tarantino.
Internet, get on it.
This is Tarantino talking about the Gandolfini beating scene, and not the person who should probably be talking about this. You know what I mean?
Yes,
but
probably not.
I listened to the entire writer's commentary, so there you go.
All right, well, so are we apparently.
Anybody who's a fan of the movie can tell you the title True Romance is not ironic. I don't really, half the things that people attribute when it comes to my work as irony, they're wrong. I mean it. I'm not being ironic. I mean it. They may be too cool to, mean it, so they write in irony, but I meant it. All right. And the title True Romance, this is True Romance. And to me, the scene when Virgil, played by James Gandolfini, is beating the shit out of Alabama is the most romantic scene in the movie. She doesn't tell on Clarence. She keeps her mouth shut. She takes the beating and faces death for him. Again, that's the whole girl is your pal thing. And it's funny because when you look at they added back to the Laserdisc and the DVD the European version of the film, which has the entire beating of Alabama, which was cut to almost nothing. All right, in the American release version of the film. And it's funny. It's one of those things where, like, when you saw the American release version of the movie, it didn't bother you because you were just so caught up in the movie. But it's just so much better when you see the whole film, and you see what she has to go through. Oddly enough, the MPAA, when it came to the probably duplicating some things that Tony might have said, when the MPAA did took their scissors to the fight scene, the thing that they objected to the most was not the beating of Alabama, but it was Alabama fighting back, which is very strange. All right. She gets the shotgun and just completely goes off on Virgil, and then like straddles him and sits over him and just starts pumping shotgun shells into his body and like screaming and yelling. The MPAA literally said, "Okay, you got to get rid of that. I just can't deal with that." And they go, "Well, why? She's fighting back. She's the hero." And they were like, "Well, it's because she becomes an animal." It was. It got to the point of actual story content that they were trying to eliminate. They were literally eliminating story content.
That is jacked up, to use the parlance of our times, because I feel like that's a very earned reaction, and like,
yeah,
that's maybe the only thing that makes it potentially redeeming is the fact that she gets his ass.
Well, I think that it is the whole scene's redeeming because it's showing kind of, and it's showing the most brutal way possible, but it's really showing that she cares about Clarence and she's not going to give him up, and she actually does have like a spine, and she's like just as strong a character as he is, and I do feel like that's kind of a beautiful thing to realize, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, oh, Clarence is going around and she's like a damsel in distress being like, oh, I need you to, kill my pimp. And he goes around and he kills the pimp. And you know what I mean? Like, it shows like these are two kids that are badass, that are able to, break through that and actually fight back. And they're in this together. Yeah. And I don't feel like you get that from her up until that point. So I feel like at that moment, you're like, oh shit, she's in this for real. It's a hard way to fucking find that out.
Yeah, like, it's a hard. Also, if we're gonna keep watching these Quentin Tarantino clips, I'm gonna keep up with the bit. I'm gonna need another bottle, by the way. But I think, but I think you're onto something.
The only other one I'll play with him doing the thing, because I want to play.
It's fine.
No, but
in and of itself,
I'm finding it hard to take now that you said that, though, because listening through it, like, I had it on kind of a low. No, I mean the breathing in thing. I didn't really notice as much because I was listening kind of on a low volume. And now that and I jacked up the volume for this because I put it through Audition, so it really like has the breathing as like a central part. So now I can't stop hearing it.
But yeah, I mean, he has this weird breathing tick, but he makes kick-ass movies, so like whatever, like it's fine.
Just as long as he's not acting like Dusty turns on the radio.
but I think that is a good point because Alabama's kind of inscrutable for a lot of this, and you're sort of, and I think it is a good point. You're like, oh, like, what's her deal really? Like, is there just not much there? Like, is she grifting him? Like, are they actually truly? And like, so I will say this, when I watched it this time and I watched it for the first time, I don't think I ever had any doubt that they were like, oh no, they clearly are like head over heels with each other. And for very different reasons, I kind of got into it that way. I seem to remember when I watched it for the first time, I thought I remember the trip to LA being longer. Whatever, like they did more stuff and had more hijinks or whatnot, but like, ultimately, like, it amounts to the same. Like, it's very clear that they it's one of the reasons I apparently like Quentin Tarantino is for all his foibles and characteristic traits. He's a pretty sincere dude. Like, it's like right there. Now you can be on board for it or not, and people that aren't love to tell you about it, but he's a pretty sincere dude. And it's just, you have to understand the lens to which he sees it in. And I think that there's something there for me with that.
I think also, though, that, I mean, and this is where probably Andy can kind of cut in with stuff, but I think there's a difference between this being a Tony Scott movie, who kind of is better at that style of, like, I don't think that this movie, with the relationship at the center of it and Tarantino directing it, would be as, you wouldn't get into the relationship as much, right? Like,
because Tony Scott's early stuff was very much like high Hollywood, blockbuster. It was Top Gun, it was Days of Thunder.
Gun, yeah.
And then
Days of Thunder, that's right.
This movie is a bit of a transition for him because like you can see the glimpse of what he would do with the digital camera, because like his movies became almost guerrilla in a way that this movie kind of is at times, not always, but there are certainly moments of it where there's this faster editing and things that you can get away with digital, where it's like it feels fast and dirty. And
he did The Hunger too. Wow, I forgot all about that. With David Bowie as the vampire. Yeah.
And then all this leads to Domino.
Yeah, which I think is the apex of his of that
clearly.
That kind of digital style that he evolved to. But like I said, you can see the seeds of it right here. This isn't fully formed later Tony Scott, which I think probably the first one where he really get closest to that would be Enemy of the State a little bit later,
which we talked about on the conversation episode, because of course we did.
Well, it's a pseudo sequel, so you got to bring it up.
Yeah,
it's absolutely worthwhile bringing it up because don't get me wrong, Conversation is a much better movie. but
Don't you think? Yeah.
yeah. But
one of the best movies of all time. That
yeah, it's okay. The Coppola kid is getting good. Yeah.
Have you heard about this? Have you heard about this guy? Have you heard about this guy, Francis Ford Coppola?
Sounds familiar. I don't know.
I just thought it was a horror director.
I think does he have something to do with wine? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. That must be it. That must be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I feel like we saw a deal, like he was talking about a deal or something where you got, if you bought a certain amount of cases of wine, you would get like a signed I don't remember if it was like a signed poster or something. Like there was
Orson Welles would show up at your show and do the Paul Masson commercial as a live.
By the way, did you see that meme? You definitely saw the meme that I shared.
Absolutely
that was like,
did. That's why I said it. Yeah.
And then Orson Welles would tell you how you need to buy the game Dark Tower, and I was victorious.
Ron, there was a meme that's, you know, the Paul Masson Orson Welles
the commercial where he gets just hammered.
Yeah. So someone made that, but it was like the cryptocurrency ones from the Super Bowl.
Oh,
like,
Jesus
cryptocurrency.
We shall mine no Bitcoin before it's time.
What's funny is Kane is right underneath True Romance in my list. So I'm sure Wells is super happy about that.
Right. Well, so Ron, all right, so back on track. Enough with that nonsense. Tony Scott, like, I think Forrest had a good point about it being like, this would be a wildly different movie if it was Quentin Tarantino's True Romance.
Not a big romance guy, that Tarantino.
Yeah. Academically, I think he is. But I think like he's again just
I mean his literal directing style.
His literal directing style would not lend itself to that at all. No. So what do you I mean, this is one of your favorite movies, right? So Ron, how do you feel about that?
About Tarantino having directed this?
No. Like,
because I'll boo Earns.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I'm talking about like what Tony Scott brings to it, right?
I think that he adds the visual style that needed to complement what was on the page. Tarantino has never been like, while he does have his own certain style, his style is borrowed from other people most of the time, because Tarantino, at the end of the day, for me, is a much better writer than he is a filmmaker.
I will say Hateful Eight, and I know you hate that movie, but just the way
I'm full of hateful for Hateful Eight.
No, but the long shots of the scenery in that film, I think really was something that's very different from a typical Tarantino film, and I really enjoyed the fact that he tried that. I'm not gonna. Was it successful? That's a whole other discussion. But
I look at Hateful Eight more like somebody filmed a stage play and put it out as a movie. And
I dig it, but I totally get that, and I agree.
And I also had already seen the film when it was called The Thing. But that's a whole other thing. But I think Tony Scott was like you said, he was on the verge of doing his own thing with the digital filmmaking, and he was able to add the flash and the, dare I use a fancy word and say, panache that was needed for this film, that I think Tarantino never could have done. Never could have. To this day, this is my favorite Tarantino picture. Hands down.
And you watch through it, and there's a lightheartedness that doesn't just take you away, I think, with the the music and the the dialogue and stuff like that, but the bright colors, I think, adds to it. Like the fact that kind of it's shot in the style continues for the entire movie, and you see these bright colors, and even when things are like horribly, I mean, the only scene that's really like dark and kind of and this, I guess, is a good transition to the second scene that we wanted to talk about being slightly problematic or hard to watch.
Think I'm a bunch of white dudes on this show to fucking talk about it. Yeah.
So when Dennis Hopper is the dad and Christopher Walken are in, that's the first time, that trailer is really the first time that it kind of gets this dark, kind of gritty look to it. But besides that, I think the entire movie is shot with this really bright, vibrant, the colors are bright, the sunlight is there. And even when it's kind of a moment of horrifying violence, like, James Gandolfini as Virgil, not Virgil, Texas, but Virgil, Brooklyn, I'm going to guess, like beating the shit out of her, there still is this kind of bright, like the hotel room itself is brightly colored. And you're kind of still reminded through that like stylistic interpretation, I guess, the aesthetic of it, that you're watching a movie and it's not quite, as horrific as it would be, I think, if it was shot by Tarantino.
Yeah, I also think that
into it. Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
also think that if Tarantino had shot this, there would be a whole lot more like retro kind. I hate using the word retro, but I think that there would have been more like 50s and 60s standards being used on the soundtrack as opposed to. I mean, who did the soundtrack? Hans Zimmer, wasn't it?
Oh God.
Or
Friend of show.
Yeah, and
I didn't want to rev Conan up just yet.
Yeah,
noted plagiarist Hans Zimmer. Bad.
Yeah, but it's like, but I mean, there would have been the soundtrack would have been completely different if Tarantino had done it. And
there's only one of his musical cues that was actually used in the film, but
yeah, and so, but no, I know, but yeah, but that's what I mean is like if there was, I keep forgetting which one it was. Which was it? Django, where there was like modern day rap in an 1800s.
Yeah. No, it was
like
Rick Ross. Rick Ross put out a track for Django Unchained.
Yeah, it's like that's. I mean, I'm sorry, but like when I watch a Western, I don't want that'd be like watching The Quick and the Dead, and somebody decided they were going to just throw in Unforgiven by Metallica because hey, this will work.
That was kind of a gimmick, right? Because you're watching kind of a slave revenge picture, like, you know what I mean? Like you're watching something that didn't really actually happen in this way. So Tarantino once again is kind of tweaking history. And within that kind of adds this gimmick, which is the Rick Ross song that like they promoted during this as like a music video.
Oh, he's got his own universe, because I think in the Eli Roth's character in Inglourious Bastards is the grandfather of a DJ that's in Death Proof or something, or I forget what it is, but they mention like the person's grandson or whatever. And then the cigarettes, what is it? Red Apple cigarettes or whatever keep showing up. And so he's got like his own universe.
I thought you were going to say the this is going to be a fucked up joke.
But I mean,
I'm sorry for making this joke, but I thought you were going to say that Django was the guy that slept with with Dennis Hopper or with Christopher Walken's great grandfather.
Hey, I'm dark and I'm fucked up, but even I know when to not to cross that line. That's
I was just gonna say, I think a better example for music would have been like if they used synthesizers in an 80s sword and sorcery movie starring Rutger Hauer.
Andy World, everybody.
Can we transition into the Hitcher now, because the Hitcher's awesome too?
Yes. Can we?
Wow. All right. So
I knew I was going to get this show canceled for some reason.
I was going to say you seem bound and determined to do so. All right. Well, we're talking around the scene. I think we should address the scene.
Yes, let's be as white as possible and address
the Sicilian scene. The Sicilian scene, as it's named all over the place. No, I think that. So there's context, as there is whenever anyone drops, a hard.
Make some racist joke. Oh yeah, there's context. You missed the. Did we really miss the context? Okay.
Well, no, it's not. So Tarantino claims that the character that Samuel L. Jackson plays, that's like the guy that's talking about eating pussy at the beginning, is actually based on a guy.
Himself?
Yeah. So he claims that Big D was actually a real person that was like
it's autobiography. Really, I really see myself in that character.
Yeah, I can. Okay, and like I'll totally eat ass. Yep.
So he claims. So in this commentary, he claims that Big D was a surrogate father figure to him, the actual guy, and he sat him down and said to him, "You know what? Sicilian women slept with black guys when the Moors invaded, and that's why Sicilians are so dark." And he claims that that's
my father had that conversation with me.
So he claims that that's an actual conversation, and that's where he got that from. That's the context that he claims is used for that. It's an uncomfortable scene.
Are we about to listen to him explain away the sequence?
I mean, it is pretty.
Definitely help. Yeah,
it is pretty funny. It's a pretty funny. You keep expecting him to note that it's uncomfortable and he probably shouldn't have put that in there, and he doesn't do it. So there's like 4 minutes of him explaining this.
Oh my god, 4 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do the drinking thing. I won't be able to
count the sniffs. Just count the sniffs.
I'll just count them. Wow. All right. Here we go, people.
This
tell Luca to go outside. You know what?
Is one of my proudest moments of my entire career. This scene. The scene actually the Sicilian speech came about in real life through two friends. One was a kind of badass older black guy that was kind of like there's my mom, and then her best friend was a woman named Jackie, and she was black, and she was like my second mom, kind of, through my entire childhood and teenage years. And she had a brother who was no longer with us anymore, who had spent some time in jail, and his name was Don, or Big D was actually his most commonly used nickname. And Big D has shown up in a lot of my movies. Sam Jackson's little bit that mostly got cut out by the MPAA in the opening scene with Drexel. He's playing Big D. That's his. If you read the script, that's his character's name is Big D. And he used to tell me about history and stuff. And he told me way back when, all right, like literally when I was about 10 or 11 or something like that, about how the Moors conquered Sicily and how the Moors were black and they started fucking the Sicilian women, and that's why Sicilians look the way they do today. And I never forgot. I always thought it was kind of interesting. And I think this scene, I think a case could be made that this scene is almost too good. All right, it's every once in a while it might not be the best thing to have like the best scene in the movie happen, before the midway point. All right, actually, I would actually say most other movies probably couldn't even survive a scene like this, because this scene would just be so much better than anything else in the movie that, you'd want to go home after the scene was over. True Romance is so much fun and lively in the way, and the actors are so good in it and everything, that actually the movie survives the scene. All right. And you know what I'm talking about if you've ever watched a movie and it has this great scene and you kind of know you're never going to see a scene that good again. All right. True Romance actually, the fact that True Romance can survive this scene is actually a testament to Tony and the actors in the film. But when I'm saying about how good I think this scene is, I'm not talking about me really. This is like just a completely beautiful, I think, four-way ensemble between what I wrote, the way Christopher Walken played it, the way Dennis Hopper played it, and the way Tony Scott directed it. I think it's just a four-man thing, and what's wild, except for the little, they have one little improv in the scene when Dennis Hopper says, you're part eggplant. And then Christopher Walken says, well, you're a cantaloupe. All right. That was a little improv bit. But aside from that, everything they said in the scene was scripted. So much so that, Christopher Walken has so much dialogue in this. And I almost got embarrassed the first time I saw the scene. I almost got embarrassed because he memorized every line.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Never once addresses the fact that this could possibly be the most racist bit of dialogue committed to film since Birth of a Nation.
I knew that was the one that you were going to use too. I was almost embarrassed because because Christopher Walken memorized every line of the scene.
That's why he was embarrassed. Exactly. This motherfucker.
This is just before we came on, I saw a picture of a guy who got this gorgeous cosplay of Moon Knight. But the person who made it screwed up and made the And literally, like I'm just imagining Quentin Tarantino looking at that costume in the mirror, going, "Nailed it."
It's so good. It's almost too good.
I'm almost embarrassed about how good it is.
I really like also that he seems very awkward when he first goes into that explanation. He's like, "This is one of my proudest moments. One of the proudest moments I've had in any film." It's just
So
it could totally ruin a movie because it's
not
too
this
good.
one though. Because it's too good. Exactly. Do you think this is like the sunk cost fallacy? Like he's just gonna double down on it, and like it's people like, well, it's Quentin. What are you gonna do? Like, I mean, like,
no, I think that
you could also say nothing. Just don't be like,
I think
yeah,
that's
crazy,
Django
right?
Unchained. Django Unchained was Quentin Tarantino doubling down and being like, let me see how many times I can put the N-word into something. And you know what? No one said anything yet. Let me try to do it more and see what the line is. See if there is a line.
I'm waiting for him to just his last movie to be like N-word the movie. Just to like be like, all right, they didn't say anything about True Romance. They didn't say anything about Django Unchained. I'm putting all my chips in. Okay, I'm putting all my chips in.
And it's a superhero movie. N-word the movie.
Yes,
and the superhero is a white guy. The superhero is
with a fucked up Moon Knight cosplay outfit.
The abbreviation is SMDH, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Lloyd Kaufman, I know you're out there. Can we get this movie made? Because if anybody's gonna put it out, it's Uncle Lloyd.
By the way, I need to say this because it happened last week. The whole thing with Joe Rogan, right, where somebody put together a super.
Yeah, let's go to a lighter fare like Joe Rogan. Yeah.
So somebody put together a super cut of how many times Joe Rogan's used the N-word on his podcast, and there was a lot of times. And one of them, he was like, "Listen, I was quoting Quentin Tarantino," which then he goes, "All right, well, why is he using it?"
Oh, mercy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the only way we can go from here is to show the Moon Knight costume in question, because I think that's the thing that we should do.
Yes, I concur.
Let's. I'll do that. Forrest. Oh, now everyone's fucking quiet. All right.
I want to. Well, so after showing the Moon Knight costume, I want to talk about the other kind of weird thing in this movie, which is the Gary Oldman performance, where he's just kind of playing a guy that thinks he's black. Because this movie kind of dives into that a lot of times, right? It's like, well, you're black because you're Sicilian, kind of, like, you know what I mean, like, because of your ancestors. Gary Oldman's literally a guy that, and he uses the N-word too a couple times, by the way.
So Gary Oldman is essentially J-Rock from the Trailer Park Boys.
There's a lot of characters that have kind of been that. I mean, you know, Spring Breakers too. James Franco in Spring Breakers is exactly like Gary Oldman's character, but he's kind of playing riffraff in that movie,
which I hated, by the way. I have such a love-hate relationship with that director, but mostly hate, and that was definitely another in a long series of hate. That it's amazing that you could have attractive women scantily clad murdering people and like make it boring to me. But you know, whatever, that's me. Other people
way to screw up America.
Exactly. The principles that we found in this, I can't pull this up, man. I thought I was gonna be able to pull this up. I'm like, sorry, whatever. I'm literally
really slow for pulling stuff up.
I'm trying to pull the group. Okay, it finally pulled up after I like admitted defeat. It finally pulled up. So let me freaking do it.
Jamie,
this is totally not going to be worth it. Yeah, exactly. Can we get a Gary number 3? Yeah, thank you. Where is it?
I just watched him in Darkest Hour for the first time, and at first you're like, "Wow, it's a really good Churchill," and then you can start to just see Oldman coming out through it. It's like, oh wait, no, he's gonna say this isn't British Boy Day.
Nailed it!
Wow.
We'll just leave that up there so we can get an entirely different audience for this show.
Peacemaker's father in Peacemaker is ashamed of that.
Too much.
Gary Oldman is Churchill. Gary Oldman and Churchill is fucking, you know, confronting the German army, and he's like, "You must have thought it was German Day. It's not German Day. Is it German Day, Roosevelt?" And he's like, "It's not German Day."
Oh, I would have liked Darkest Hour more.
All right,
Maybe
let's
we'll
move
get
on to
that in
literally
FDR
anything
American Badass. I haven't seen that movie yet.
So,
Yeah, maybe.
so to be clear, that's a sack of shit, right? That like explanation is a sack of shit, right? We're all clear on that.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's no real big D. He's like it seems like his big D, right? His Samuel L. Jackson character is a lot like John Wayne, or not John Wayne, fucking Elvis in this movie. I thought of John Wayne because of Preacher, but Elvis in this movie, right? Where it seems like maybe Quentin Tarantino has like a hallucinogenic black guy that shows up to like talk him into being like to be like
no, use the word. Everyone loves it when you use it. They're like, people love to hear it.
I was just quoting Quentin Tarantino.
Which is kind of does sound like the real Samuel L. Jackson, because he's the only person that has defended Tarantino's liberal use of the N-word.
Well,
because he keeps getting a paycheck
of his career. Yeah, I mean, like, let's be clear, fantastic actor, but come on.
Yeah, he wasn't going anywhere before Tarantino. I mean,
he wouldn't have gotten the Hitman's Bodyguard if it wasn't for Tarantino.
Exactly, the star turn.
Yeah. Yes.
The most vocal critic of, and it's kind of funny that Samuel L. Jackson's been in both movies, but the most vocal critic around this time of Tarantino's use of the N-word was Spike Lee. And Samuel L. Jackson has that role in Do the Right Thing, where he's the DJ.
And he's got a good role in that one I just watched. One about jazz music. Because he's the one who beats up Denzel Washington at the end.
How dare he beat up Denzel?
All that jazz? I don't know. What
no, it's
yes.
First he's defending.
It's showtime.
Something blues. God, what is it? Mo Better Blues.
First he's defending Tarantino. Now he's beating up Denzel Washington. What the fuck, Samuel L. Jackson?
It's a whole situation.
Leaving that one lay.
All right, so this is another weird.
There's more than enough discussion of that. Let's talk about literally anything else.
So this is another very weird clip, but I'm done with.
Andy, do you have an unrelated 80s sci-fi movie to bring up? Great.
Besides Jungle Fever, no.
All right, props.
Look what I've done. I bring up True Romance. Look what I've done.
No,
I'm creating a monster. Nobody wants to see Marshall no more. They want Shady. I'm chopped liver.
Oh man, here he is, Al Jorgensen.
You must have thought it was White Boy Day. I met Tony Scott, the director, and he said I hadn't read the script, and he said I got this really fantastic script. He tried to explain the story to me, and he said, "Look, I'm not very good at this." He said, "I don't know how to explain the story to you." I said, "Well, like, forget about that. Who's the character?" And he said, "Well, he's a pimp, and he's a white guy who thinks he's black." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it."
You got yourself an egg roll. We got everything here from a little eye Joe to damn as I know.
I worked with a sound guy on the last movie I did who had hair just like this. And I thought, well, maybe dreadlocks, like a white guy is like trying to dread his hair. And I had this lens and this scar and the teeth, and I just kind of put it all together. He could have rejected it, and he said it's too much, or lose the eye, or the teeth are good. But anyway, I think yesterday was the first day, I think. And he just looked at me and said, yep, great. He said, check the boots out. They're not my idea, but.
Well, hold on a second. Big D, you saying you eat pussy? Yeah, motherfucker, I eat everything. I eat the pussy, I eat the butt, I eat every motherfucking thing. Yeah, right? If I ever did eat some pussy, I would never eat any pussy, right? But if I did eat some pussy, I sure as hell wouldn't tell no goddamn buddy about it. I'd be ashamed as a motherfucker, man. Nigga, you smoke enough sherm, your dumb ass will do a lot of motherfucking things.
Well, I was working in New York, and we were filming in, I think is it Williamsburg? Yeah, in Queens or Brooklyn? Yeah, I'm not sure. And we were at the campers, the trailers were out on the street, and there were these black guys hanging out. And I heard this voice, and I thought, yeah, that's the guy. So I had a tape recorder, and I said to him, yo, come here. And I took him into my trailer and I said, do you mind if I tape your voice? So I taped his voice, and then I just wear headphones and I just listen to it, and and then I'm working with these great guys. So you're hearing the rhythms, and
I know I'm pretty.
So Gary Oldman is bringing random black men into his trailer off the street.
Mm-hmm.
And okay,
I'm
sure he wasn't expecting.
The thought of him being like, "Hello, would you come into my trailer for a second? I need to record your voice." Just some random black guy that he's never met that was just hanging out outside of something.
Method acting as a Negro, yes. Which again, coming from Oakland, like, believe me, especially actually not in Oakland, but in the suburbs, and like once you get out of Oakland about 15 minutes, it's like, oh yeah, you don't need to do method acting for that. You can just take the BART.
I actually when I went to high school, and middle school, there were plenty of people just like that. They for whatever reason they adapted to or adopted rather that culture, and they decided that they had to be that way. It's like, why don't you just be who you are? I'm sorry, I can't be cool and afford my Charlotte Hornets jacket like everybody else has, because apparently everybody in Racine, Wisconsin are fans of the Charlotte Hornets.
No, I mean, listen,
we're talking about it more and more. Yeah.
I mean, growing up in like the age of hip hop and stuff, like there's so many white kids that take on those affects, and you can tell that they kind of got that from just kind of watching, like rap videos and people on, like, it's not like they're getting that from people in their life. They're getting that kind of from a weird connection to like pop culture. So
can we also talk about, though, how amazing Brad Pitt is in this movie for as little as he is? I'm trying to venture away from that stuff and get to the stoner Brad Pitt stuff?
Ron Purtee actively avoiding the Negro discourse.
This is a problematic racial episode of Movie Night Extravaganza. This is all we talk about.
Four white guys talking about it.
We have everything from Little Eye Joe to Damned If I Know.
Can I sum it up and say his role in this is great? That dude is a real dude, and I think Gary Oldman does a great job portraying it. However, the weird way that he got there, and the less said about it, the better. Except for the fact that he's definitely James Franco's dad from Spring Breakers.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Which is canon.
I'll co-sign it.
Spring Break forever.
But yeah, Brad Pitt. So first of all, he's not in this. He's barely in this movie, but worst roommate ever.
But you remember him.
You remember. Well, you remember every line he says is solid gold. Solid gold. Every one of them.
Don't condescend to me, man. I'll fucking kill you, man.
When the mob comes around, like looking for his roommate and their friends, and he offers them like a bong hit, like fantastic. Like this is the great American character.
And it's solid comedic timing. Like the timing. I mean, I don't know whether that's Tony Scott as the director, kind of, but like the pacing of it, and kind of where the scenes appear are perfectly timed for it to be like these kind of lighthearted, funny moments where it's like all of a sudden the guy, James Gandolfini shows up and is like asking him stuff, and he doesn't want to smoke with fucking Brad Pitt. So Brad Pitt's like, don't condescend to me, man. But then it's followed up right after that by like the most brutal, disgusting scene in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's like this interesting thing where the comedic timing of the placement of these scenes, which is not where Tarantino had written them, I don't think. Like they kind of changed around the because they had different parts in different places. So like you get this kind of lighthearted scene where it's like, oh, that's really funny, and then all of a sudden it's to the most disgusting, like brutal part of the movie.
That feels like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. And I know we were talking about this before, but Michael Rappaport is quite possibly the most annoying character in the movie. I want him to die at the end. And it's funny.
He's Gary Oldman in real life.
The thing that cracks me.
Wine mom who's drunk in real life. You ever see his Twitter? He's just like,
but not in this movie.
No, fuck Trump.
Well, his big thing though is now he'll call up and harass random staffers on the Howard Stern show as a way to stay relevant. like one of like his Howard's media producer is a big Bengals fan, went to the Super Bowl and they lose. And he said out of nowhere, he gets a voicemail from Rappaport saying, "Oh, you fucking piece of shit. I'm glad your fucking team." I was like, what are you doing? Yeah, what is your life that shitty that you have to call people who are like C-level celebrities? And
but let's keep in mind this is the same guy that like he made that one video where he saw like a weird cat in his backyard or something and was just like, this fucking cat's crazy, look at this cat, everybody. Like it just seems like he is literally that guy. The internet has allowed that guy to become a presence, and the fact that he is an actor is almost ancillary to the fact that he is absolutely that guy.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I really think it's funny also that he kind of blew up at this like pre-internet time, right? Where it's like, you know, people like Snoop Dogg and Tupac were kind of big celebrities, and he realizes he's kind of like a star fucker pretty much. Like he wants to show up. If there's a bunch of rappers throwing a party, he's absolutely going to show up to that party. So he like showed up to some party and like met Tupac like right before Tupac got killed. And he's talked about it for like 20 years. Like it's just been 20 years of him appearing on podcasts being like, yo, I met Tupac one time. And like
I'd much rather listen to Snoop Dogg talk about how he was there for Pac's last breath, because that's a far more interesting story.
I'd much rather hear Michael Rappaport talk about Alicia.
Saw him go on.
We don't always get what we want.
Snoop Dogg,
no, we don't.
Had a podcast, and he went on Snoop Dogg's podcast as a guest and was like, "Yo, remember when I met you guys and I met Tupac?" And it was like,
they're like, "No, we don't remember that."
Yeah,
please tell us again for the thousandth time, Michael Rappaport. Sounds great. I don't dislike him in this movie. I think he's good in this movie. Like I think he serves the role.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, no, he serves his purpose, but he's
and
still a crazy bastard who should have been shot in the face by which Baldwin was that? I forget.
Alec.
The big fat. No, it was Michael Penn. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chris Penn. I get the Baldwins and the Penns confused.
Chris Penn was a Baldwin brother.
Yeah, I mean that's how little I give a shit about the Baldwin brothers.
I thought you were thinking Tom Sizemore was a Baldwin brother because
no, I know. But here's my thing though about
Baldwin
Tom Sizemore.
Cousin?
Maybe you can't have a war movie and have it work without Tom Sizemore being in it. It's just the way it is.
And in this case, the war movie is projected onto the wall, which I think is a neat moment.
Boom. Yes.
Right. So that,
and like, totally Tony Scott.
And totally because they walk in, you know, Clarence and Alabama walk in, and they're like, it's a little bit of an unnerving scenario, and then like you got this war movie like playing on like the wall, right? And this is after like knowing full well as the audience that like, hey, Cousin Balky's been made by the feds and is like working for them, but they don't know that. You almost think that like he's gonna find out, but they don't. And then you just have this like weird scene where like he's got this private security, one of which is apparently all cops are bastards.
Yeah, Thor. Yeah. Thor from the Incredible Hulk movie from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. He was.
No, he's an ally of this. He's the ACAB ally of this podcast.
He absolutely is, and he absolutely is like shameless about it, and like literally gets a bunch of people killed because of it.
And I love that actor too, because he's always phenomenal and everything he's in. He's just...
That's when he would throw the hammer to go run and get it. Run over, pick it up, throw it again.
But I love the.
We can't afford to have Mjolnir come back to you.
We don't have that kind of budget
where everybody's drawn their guns. And he's like, Lee, something you don't know about me. I hate fucking cops. And it's just like, no. Like, I think
has to get it out there.
I think
like,
everybody knows
get
that about you.
We pretty much understand at this point. Like we totally get what. Yes, thank you. But thank you for explaining your actions. We appreciate that about you.
And then as he's laying there after he gets all shot up, he's like, you know, help me. I don't want to die. Well, now you're a pussy. Okay, that's great. Now when you're about to die. Yeah, okay. All right.
He's like, oh, I'm bleeding, call an ambulance. And fucking Chris Penn walks up. He's like, I'll call you a hearse. And it's like, that's like that final fucking line though, where it's like someone always has to be like badass and say like some line right before they fucking cap somebody. You know what I mean?
I was waiting for it. Should have been Schwarzenegger. I'll call you a hearse.
we also I guess I'm gonna be the guy. Let's call him a coward, not a pussy, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't think that's really what
a fucking coward then.
I mean, you see a cop, you see a cop or whatever, and you think like, all right, well maybe I'm bleeding on the floor, but that person's not necessarily going to like offensively shoot me per se. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think he's necessarily being a coward. I think he's just
it escalates so quickly,
bleeding
like,
out and being like,
yeah. Like it's clearly he's not thinking too hard about the consequences of his actions. He's coming from a very emotional place, which is the worst thing you want for a fucking bodyguard.
Yeah.
Like flat
out.
Like,
you don't know about me. I hate fucking cops. No, but so I remember watching this for the
that wasn't on my LinkedIn. I'm sorry.
Yo, you hired me and you said, do you like cops or not? And I said, I do like cops. That's why you hired me. But I got a secret to tell you. I hate fucking cops.
I lied. I lied.
Well, I don't care. I don't care if you like having sex with cops. Do you enjoy them as people? That's my big question.
Exactly.
No, but so the funniest moment that I still remember from watching this, and I watched this. I've always been like a Tarantino fan, and I didn't know necessarily about this movie. I'd heard about True Romance, and in like 2017, I think I watched The Sopranos and watched it through and got into a really deep Sopranos deep dive. And I hadn't watched it up to that point. I had meant to. I finally got like HBO for a little bit, or no, it was on Amazon Prime. I finally like found it on Amazon Prime, watched through the entire Sopranos, and then found out that James Gandolfini was in this, and was like, I want more James Gandolfini, and fucking Quentin Tarantino wrote this. Hell yeah! So I remember watching this, and the thing that I remember more than anything else is that moment during the standoff where you're already watching like a really tense standoff between the cops and the bodyguards, and everyone's pointing guns at each other, and then the mob but then the mob fucking walks in.
And
I remember
just
laughing my fucking ass off the first time I watched this, just being like, holy shit, like I completely forgot the mob was even a factor in this movie.
Well, and that's an earned result. I feel like the script is tightly wound enough that like you're forgiven for forgetting, but then you're like, oh right, and then you see them in the hallway and you're like, oh whoa, oh my god, and then like you're like kind of like, well, what's that gonna look like? And then it's happening and you're like, wow, this is
they build it up with the mob for like most of the movie, right? Like the police show up, which kind of makes it awesome. Like the police show up in the third, like the last third of the movie, right? Like there's no the police aren't involved in the story whatsoever until Elliot gets covered in cocaine, which is a really funny scene. And he's sitting in the car.
Just call him Balky.
So that scene, right? There aren't cops in this movie until then, and then you're kind of put into this really, really condensed dose of like interactions with him and Chris Penn and like Tom Sizemore, like that whole sequence of it, and that happens really fast. So you're still thinking about that and not thinking about the mob, and then the mob kind of shows up. All of them show up at fucking Brad Pitt's apartment now because with Michael Rappaport, but whatever. He's sitting on the fucking couch, and then they all walk in and ask like, "Oh, where are they?" But you don't really think about that because you're given such a condensed dose, I think, of like the cops and Clarence and these different characters.
And those great directions, man. Just go down the road, make a right.
Yeah, they're not even good directions, but he immediately snitches. Like the thought of not snitching like never occurs to him. Like it's just he's an open book, right?
It also just feels like he's not thinking, oh, they're into this kind of caper, whatever. Like in his mind, someone asks him a question, he just answers it. Like, man, I know where they went. Like,
why wouldn't you invite them in to take a hit off the ball, right? Why wouldn't you? Of course you would.
He doesn't need to ask them who they are or like why they're there or like whether there's danger involved. They're like, where'd they go? And he's like, oh man, you just missed them. They were just here. I don't know.
Here, they went over there then. It's great.
The one thing he remembers is where they went.
Yeah. That's the thing he remembers. Yeah. I think so that since we're talking about the standoff scene, that has to be one of the all-time great standoffs, right? I mean, like has to be. Like it's impeccably plotted. It's impeccably directed. Everything feels very earned, as ridiculous and over the top as it gets. Like, I mean, if you were to look at the movie as a delivery system for that standoff scene, you would not necessarily be wrong, but it is more than that. Because as far as ultra violence goes, every bit of it is earned, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, which too comes to Tarantino's homage in speaking movies. It's very much out of like a Hong Kong action flick. They always end with a kind of standoff like that, and they kind of foreshadow.
She's very upset about, by the way, that people are saying, "Oh, these Hong Kong movies, that's where Tarantino got this." He claims he got it in his own head, and then the standoff movies came later from Hong Kong. And I'm not going to make you guys watch him talk about that for 5 minutes. But he wants
I get it. We can fill in the blanks ourselves. That's, I mean,
you know, whether or not he realizes it or not, like the, you know, Detroit being like such an Elmore Leonard go-to, and the standoff at the end being such a cliche to a Hong Kong action film. And I'm not saying this, because I like when he does that kind of stuff, his homages, because they feel very genuine, like love to it.
He even will do the thing where he'll find like a Hong Kong film that he really likes, and kind of like he has like some like lifestyle brand that he puts on it, but basically like exposes it to a wider audience, which I think is cool as hell.
Yes,
and that's something that he doesn't spend a lot of time talking about it. And the only person I can think of that does that is Robert Rodriguez, honestly. But like a lot of people will just be like, "Hey, screw you! You don't have any money. I'm just gonna take this stuff and go." The fact that he like legitimately loves these sort of like pulpy filmmakers and these pulpy films, and wants more people to see them. Like
City on Fire is great.
Absolutely.
Which is the big inspiration behind Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
You mentioned Robert Rodriguez. I prefer him to Tarantino, believe it or not.
Oh boy. So if it's in a shootout between the two of them, I think there's more Quentin Tarantino movies that I like than there are Robert Rodriguez movies. But I think the Robert Rodriguez movies that I like more than most Quentin Tarantino movies, if that makes sense from a qualitative standpoint. And
I'm just going to shake my head and say yes.
Well, it's an opinion, so you can't disagree. I mean, he's
right. Exactly. That's like, if I disagree with your opinion, that'd be like saying, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Right. I mean, Robert Rodriguez is amazing. El Mariachi, like, I saw that when I was like first starting to learn how to do cinematography, and I was like, this is everything I wanted. This is like what my friends and I do, but better. Basically. And I love that he basically took the opportunity to like quote unquote remake / sequel the movie, and it's like basically the same movie with a better actor and a bigger budget, and it's just like bold move, Cotton. All right.
Well, my whole thing is like I prefer Once Upon a Time in Mexico to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I have my own issues with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I know so many people I know think that it's just like this amazing film, but I'm one of the people
who think Brad Pitt could have totally kicked Bruce Lee's ass, because
No, that's one of the things I take umbrage with.
That scene is like I love that movie, and I freaking despise that scene.
Another thing that bothers me, though, is Tarantino puts so much dialogue and makes things so long and stretches things out that he made the one B movie mistake to me that so many B movie filmmakers do to stretch the runtime of their films. When Brad Pitt's character is driving home, did we really need to follow him the entire time?
Yeah, it's a brown bunny over here suddenly.
Yeah, it's like we didn't need to see him going from. We understand we would have gotten it. He was leaving the Hollywood Hills going to his trailer. We would have gotten that by seeing him leave, watching him pull up. Tarantino's movies are long enough. That's why I think this is my favorite. But enough
about Drive the movie. Let's talk about Tarantino.
Yeah, but how much fun I bet he makes drives like that, because everything he writes is autobiographical. But
apparently, yeah.
So that's why this is where I drove my car. This is totally. I thought about this in my head. It's most like me when I drive my car, and you guys need to see that it's most like me when I drive my car, right? And then.
And I really want to have a woman's foot right there on the dashboard, right there, so I can see it.
Mark the time, 1 hour, 28 minutes.
Big D was the one that told me, right? He told me there's a lot of feet. There's a lot of feet in the world, and you need to see all of the feet, all the feet, all the D, all the feet. You know what I mean?
But that's what I think I love about this as a Tarantino picture, is the fact that it gets everything it needs to get in, and it's condensed. It's not big and drawn out.
It's not 2.5 hours. It doesn't oversee.
Yeah,
Patricia Arquette's
there's something
feet.
there.
Yeah.
It also feels like we're kind of approaching a time period where like it's somehow seen as the longer a movie is, or the longer you're able to stretch out a movie, right? Like the more artful it is, because we're kind of
the more important it is. Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you look at like The Irishman. Like as we made the joke last time with The Irishman, where someone's like, "Oh, I'm still watching it." Like it is that long. Like that's a long ass fucking movie, and it feels like the formatting of films in the last few years has gotten to the point where like filmmakers are like, let me see how far I can stretch this out, which is the opposite they should be doing when we're in a culture where pretty much everybody has ADHD. It's hard enough to sit through 90 minutes sometimes.
I've actually seen The Irishman 3 times. It just like all the way through. I didn't take any breaks, but I also work from home and have nothing to do for long extended periods of time.
You have a pee
so
bottle right next to you.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah.
Pee every time you see some de-aging effects. Oh man, I've been peeing all day.
Well, the medicine I'm on right now, it would totally be like, yep, all right, sure.
No, a perfect Twitch stream is you watching The Irishman 3 times, and you streaming yourself watching The Irishman 3 times. Be like, send in some send me in some subs.
Give me some bits and some subs while Robert De Niro kills Jimmy Hoffa again.
You're like, this jar's going to be sold on eBay.
There's a really
This
funny
is quite
meme
the turn, and that's coming from me. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm in a Facebook group called my favorite Facebook group I've ever been part of. The rest of them are fucking disgusting and scum and repulsive. But the one that I like is Martin Scorsese eyebrow posting. And a common joke throughout this movie or throughout that group is that they would post these memes, and there's always like a young, like a movie where someone's really young and they post the Robert De Niro de-aging thing. And they're like, oh, this is when Robert De Niro starred in, and they pick a movie where he's supposed to be really young. So one of them was the flashback they had of Danny DeVito and It's Always Sunny when he goes back and he and his brother are like fighting over that girl. So he's supposed to be 12 years old and it's still Danny DeVito, but they replaced it with Robert De Niro with the de-aging thing on him. Yeah. They're like, he's 12 years old. I don't know. So I found that funny. But anyway, True Romance is a movie.
Yes.
Yes, it is. In that movie.
Not a lot of feet in this movie, let me tell you.
No.
Let's hear
that's how you know Quentin did not direct it.
It would be funny if that's how he ended his like whatever writer's dialogue or whatever. He's like, not enough feet, not enough. I would have done so much more. I would have done so much more with feet.
Alabama would have been running around barefoot.
Just like it's they do in the real Alabama.
If he had mentioned that the only thing that could make the Sicilian scene better was more feet, that would be classic Tarantino.
I'll never get over. It's just too good.
It's just too good. It's just too good. I'm gonna start saying that if I do something like just irredeemably terrible. It's just too good. It's just too good for people, really. Like
I have certain tweets that I don't want to bring them back up, but there's certain tweets that I've made that have caused.
They're just too good. You can't. I mean, how could you?
My only problem with this tweet is that it could ruin another Twitter account if it wasn't my Twitter account, but because it's my Twitter account, it works perfectly.
Yeah, it's too good.
Why could it have ruined it? Oh, it could have ruined it because it was too good. It was too good of a tweet.
It's just I'm shocked that the rest of my Twitter feed survived this tweet
because it was too good.
Because it was too good.
Hey, Conan, over there.
Yes, Forrest.
Do you want to do letterboxed one-liners?
Why, Forrest, I would love to.
Do we want to do that, or do we want to talk about Hans Zimmer really quickly?
I want to do that after letterboxed one-liners.
I mean, I uncharacteristically do not have tons to say about Hans Zimmer on this one.
Yeah, honestly, I just feel like Hans Zimmer's soundtrack's distracting until the very end, and then it's like, oh, he's trying to spoil the movie.
To me, I would say the charitable way to put it would be it's an homage to Badlands.
Yes.
That's the charitable way to put it. And I love Badlands is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite Malick. It's one of my favorite movies. But it's so shamelessly Badlands. Like, it's like, that better be a motherfucking homage, dude, because otherwise, yeah, exactly. Otherwise, David Bowie will juggle some balls.
I mean, now that you say that, I am kind of waiting for Clarence Worley to record a message saying, "Listen to your parents and teachers. They got a beat out there."
Good. Have we not? By the way, have we not done Badlands? Anyway, whatever. That's a separate discussion. Hans Zimmer, noted hack. Hans Zimmer. It's not as hacky as
more and more
later
people
stuff.
are saying it. More and more people are saying it
more and more. Exactly. Me, I'm the person that's saying it more and more, but it doesn't matter. It still counts. Again, it's this is before he just gave up entirely and had his like support staff do it. But like it's basically Badlands. It's basically Badlands. Like at least any of the parts that anybody remembers, it's fine. It serves the purpose. It does the thing. Standards were different in 93, right? 93 is when this came out.
93. But
Is it great? Not really. But I mean, there's like 3 things Hans Zimmer's ever done that's been great, and he's been redoing them ever since. Thank you very much. Letterboxd is a place for film, everybody.
Quickly, Pulp Fiction is 94, right? I'm pretty sure. Or 90.
Yeah, and actually,
94.
I think the next movie Patricia Arquette did was Ed Wood too. I might have to get our fact check.
Good ass movie, by the way. Good ass Tim Burton.
Ed Wood is great. Ed Wood is
I have the VHS
objectively great
of it.
I have the VHS of True Romance.
I believe you.
I hope
Letterboxd is a place for film. Open source democracy, bottom up. It's the only social media network that I particularly care for. It's a place where film lovers get to talk at, with, and to each other about the films that they love or don't love. The best summation of which are usually quick, snappy little one-liners, sometimes funny, sometimes poignant, sometimes interesting. Definitely topics of conversation, definitely things that we exploit for this bit, the Letterboxd reviews. These are the Letterboxd reviews for True Romance, everybody. Brad Pitt taking a fat bong hit, then asking the mafia if they want some, is truly poetic cinema. That's Aaron with Bon Mott. Only 3.5 stars, but anyway, whatever.
Yeah, but still poetic cinema.
Yeah, Ron, you can talk about these if you want to. Like, you don't need to just like.
Okay.
E-girls and their podcaster boyfriends be like.
A truly amazing one.
I guess I don't get that one.
That was for Forrest.
Oh.
2.5 stars.
2.5.
Well, they don't like e-girls and their podcaster boyfriends. That's the thing.
That's the thing. I guess the True Romance was the coke we scored along the way.
As it usually is, to be honest.
CJS.
I thought it was the not snitching.
I mean, but that comes with the territory. But
yeah,
not snitching is love.
Not snitching is love, but like you got to have the coke thrown in first.
Yeah, no. My wife will log the cops for me. That's how I know she loves me.
There you go.
What happens if you throw in a briefcase full of coke?
I will not see her again. No.
Don't condescend me, man. I'll fucking kill you, man. That's Groove Man.
The way he says it too, and I fucked this up yesterday when I was saying it, is don't condescend me, man. I'll fucking kill you, man.
Kill you, man. It's classic stoner cadence. Is the best way I can put it.
Do you think that was like ad-libbed, or do you think that was actually in the script? Like
either way, it makes the character.
Yeah.
Like
and that really is all that makes the character.
Who's on screen for like maybe like 4 minutes for the entire film.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And Tony Scott.
Where was that Oscar? Anyway, go ahead.
Tony Scott said that because Brad Pitt was such an up and coming actor, he really wanted to use him in this movie. So he kind of just found a place for him and was like, thank God I found a place for him, because he was doing he was like, this is an actor that's really going to go places, and I wanted in with him.
Was that this was Thelma and Louise was his first movie, right?
Thelma and Louise's first big movie.
His first movie that anybody cared about.
Yeah. Because that was his breakout role. Because he was great in that.
Thelma and Louise is a great movie. Anyway.
Yeah, but by Tony Scott's brother Ridley.
There you go. Next. Tag yourself. I'm Brad Pitt asking the mafia if they want to smoke a bowl or whatever. Brit. By the way, it was real hard not to have the entire series of these be just some derivation of this, because there were so many of them and so many of them were hilarious. But it's like, dude, that character's in the movie for 4 minutes, y'all.
Yeah. But then also plays the pivotal role, because the mob isn't going to know where they are if he doesn't tell them.
Honestly, he's like the Beetlejuice of this movie.
And also James Gandolfini wasn't going to know where Alabama was until Brad Pitt told him. And so it's like he kind of does play the pivotal role.
It's very important to the plot of this film.
Yep. The original name of it was called Floyd.
Floyd Romance. This was fun. Christian Slater is insane. Patricia Arquette is gorgeous. What else is new? No.
That's fair.
No punctuation. That's fine. This was long. This was one long GTA mission.
Yes.
They still gave it 4 stars.
Which is a little bit different than a GTA mission, which is where you teach yourself how to argue, and then you finally get there, and
exactly.
Yeah,
at least it was GTA 5.
My kids to Grand Theft Auto this weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, hand me the controller, and like immediately I kill 3 cops. I'm like, this is how you play the game.
This is how you play the game, you jerk.
It's GTA
Like, it's like-
Super Bowl.
Well, what if I just want to obey all the laws, and then they like drive into somebody and like knock over 3 telephone poles?
Fantastic.
If you want to obey the laws, you better fucking play The Sims instead.
Yeah, go freaking play Sim City, jerk. Surprising, no feet finishes.
Speaking of jerk, you know what I mean? Like
4.5 stars.
Well, you got to give it stars to the no feet fetishes.
You really do. And those are the
That's
letterbox
what the extra
reviews.
star was for. That was the extra star was for.
The letterbox reviews for True Romance, everybody. Letterbox place for film. Please follow the show, which is Forrest Movie Night Extravaganza. I, of course, have Conan Neutron. J. Andrew World is on there as well. Justice Andrew World. He hates fucking cops in his CV. And Ron Purtee is actually on Letterbox as well.
Oh,
so go follow him.
Yeah,
we'll have to follow you.
All right. Well, starting.
I think Andy's got to do his spiel.
Yeah,
Right?
Ron's got to go in 20 minutes, so
It's not going to take him 20 minutes. I sure as hope it's not going to take him 20 minutes to do the spiel. Yeah, unless we keep interrupting.
But
so anyway,
right now.
One thing you don't know about me, Andy, I hate fucking cops.
Right now, if you're watching us on Twitch, please subscribe. And if you happen to be
what a patient man,
an Amazon Prime subscriber or member, you can subscribe for free, and that helps us out. So please do that. Now, also later on, we're going to be on YouTube, and please like us and follow us there because people should have great conversations while they're watching this edited down version where they, Forrest has carefully cut out all of Conan interrupting everybody.
Never done that.
There would be no show. It would be like the non-violent version of True Romance that they did for TV.
Yes.
It's gonna be like, oh, what a nice little love story. 15-minute long short film. Great.
Yes.
I'm not cutting anything out from this. And if my joke earlier about the Sicilian and Django Unchained, gets us canceled, guess what? I've burned a few bridges.
Some would say that the
it would get you canceled, not me.
If you want to support,
I said
Conan
us
and
meaning the show.
Oh.
If you want to support Conan and I, please go to the
your new show, Movie Day Extravaganza.
Patreon. Please go to the Movie Night Extravaganza Patreon and subscribe there, and make sure you put in the comments no Forrest, and that way the money will go straight to me and Conan.
Wow.
Yeah, we've kind of started a more of an equitable situation with this. If we do start making money, where the 3 of us are really put on the art for it, which kind of sucks because I'm gonna get us canceled.
I mean, if any episode's gonna do it, I mean, thank you.
It's me defending for 5 minutes why I said the N-word that time and bringing up a character that has nothing to do with the story that I kind of just made up.
And it was just too. It was just too good, right?
It was just too good. That's the problem. Is it was too good. Yeah, it was almost too good. Thank you, Justice Andrew World. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, we need to get this on the road. So starting with Ron, we do this. Final thoughts. Anything you really want to say about the movie? Anything that comes to mind or that you didn't get to?
I think it's. Wow, what just? Oh, putting me on the spot here. I think it's.
Oh, you've never watched the show? You've never seen the end of the end?
I've never caught the ending of the show. No, because at one point I'm like, "Wow, this one guy's really racist," so I'm just gonna leave.
Just too good. Every episode we do is just too good.
It's
just too good. It's just too good, really.
Like I said, I think this is Tarantino's best work. And I think he's a better writer. Like I said, he's a better writer than a director. He's in the same vein as Kevin Smith in that regard. Yeah, I'll do that. I don't care. Yeah, shots fired. Pew pew.
You don't like 95% of a movie to be shot in a convenience store?
Well, I mean, I don't know if
Clerk
Jackie Brown would have been better if they were just sitting behind a convenience store shelf or whatever counter, but. Yeah, no, this movie, ever since I saw it, like I only watched it because I have a huge crush on Patricia Arquette when I first saw it.
You thought
I saw her, and I don't care. Feet are gross. And I saw her in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 when I was really young, and I was just like totally smitten. And then I saw that she was in a bra in this movie, and when it came out, I was 15, so I was like, "Hello," So there you go. Someone's always watching the big TV, and so I can't get to Skinamax. But there's Patricia Arquette in a bra. That's right, Patricia. That's what I said. And so because I know you're watching.
She's avid fan Patricia Arquette. Yes.
She's watching for me.
She's one of our 10 patrons.
But yeah, no, if I had, do you want me to rank it? Because I'll rank it. I'll give it a number, 1 through 10, if you want.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I'll give it a 9.5. I give it. I think it's an almost perfect film.
On the Richter scale or out of 10?
Yes, for how many times James Gandolfini hit her. That's how many the Rick. Yeah, bad joke. But at least mine won't get you guys canceled.
If she had a little more feet, would you have given it the extra point?
I actually would have gone down in score if there was more feet in this movie. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Conan, let's hear it.
So I will say that somehow this is better.
This has been moving.
This movie is better than I remembered it. And again, like Ron is a kid of the 90s. I assure you I remember it very well. I docked half a star for the egregious violence against Patricia Arquette's character and for the scene that we went into in depth. And I'm glad we addressed because you kind of have to. Because those are the two things that kind of was like, ooh. Otherwise, fantastic film. I think it's not talked about enough that the first 15 minutes of this kind of, again, a little bit wish fulfillment. Apparently, it bums me out that Quentin Tarantino thinks that he's that character, but it works. And it is actually a great, like, romantic thing that isn't fit into the stringent guidelines of what a meet cute looks like in 2022.
I think I really just took the thing that Quentin Tarantino sees in that character is just like the autistic level, just bringing up films to try to, like, you know what I mean, like
being a huge, like, repository, a Wikipedia of knowledge, if you will.
But like even further than that, like just connecting his personal interactions to filmmaking,
sure.
Like, you know what I mean, like it's like maybe autistic's the wrong word, but like it's this kind of tweak almost, you know what I mean, where it's like it has to happen, like it's not like. That's the only way that he's able to really connect, which is why I think there's kind of like Ahmed in Community, like.
Yeah, so I would say I think that is an underrated part of this movie that people tend to forget by the time they get to all the action, like later on, and for good reason, because the action later on is fantastic. It's impeccably directed. Everything is earned, as we've gone over in exacting and exhausting detail. But the cast on this is basically fantastic. Like everybody's doing great work here. Brad Pitt is the worst roommate ever. Balky is hilarious as like the sleazebag dude. Kristen Slater, this is one of his best roles. Like this Heathers and Pump Up the Volume for me. And like as far as like, yeah, that guy's pretty rad. Even though sometimes he is doing a Jack Nicholson impersonation, but not in this film. In this film, he's classic leading man Christian Slater, and I dig it. I dig it. And Patricia Arquette she's the coolest. She's the best. Like this is a great Patricia Arquette movie. Like, and would it be better if she had more stuff to do? Yeah, but it wouldn't be this movie. And honestly, like she's fantastic in this. Like, how can you hate Patricia Arquette?
It feels like I think the first decade you could really have these kind of like nerdy leading men, right?
Yeah.
Like was like the 80s when you're kind of seeing a lot of like, you know, Breakfast Club movies like that, where you can kind of have somebody that ends up being a big character that's kind of like this nerd. But like it does feel like you're still kind of in the early formation of this, where it's not just like
before the nerds completely took over and everything that was cool about being a nerd was sucked out of it.
Before Revenge of the Nerds, baby. No.
Just not getting canceled hard enough, huh? All right. Anyway,
what's getting canceled about Revenge of the Nerds?
Have you not seen Revenge of the Nerds?
I have seen Revenge of the Nerds. Okay. I'm just kidding. I knew a guy that was in Revenge of the Nerds, and he's dead now. So, yeah, don't.
You know what happened to him? He died.
Don't insult that movie.
All right. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic film. Again, only docked for the two reasons that I mentioned, and even then, still very enjoyable. That last action sequence is, I'm sorry, it's a ballad of ultra violence, and I love it. And like, I get it if you're not into violent stuff, maybe you're not into that thing, but this movie does a lot of great things, and it's a great fun. Even though basically, it's a Breathless Badlands mashup. And I love both of those films too. But this is like, imagine Breathless plus Badlands plus Quentin Tarantino. And yeah, that's true. But the style in this is actually pretty rad. And I didn't notice it so much at the time because I was living in it, right? But like I was like, no, this is a very really awesome, great movie with two incredibly problematic pieces to it. And I think it's great. And I'm glad we covered it. I'm glad we didn't shy away from the problematic pieces of it.
I listened to an entire 4 minutes of Tarantino explaining it.
You know, it just was too good. That's the problem with it. It was just too good.
Andy, let's hear it.
I love the fact that, you know, this is Tony Scott and he was shooting with film. So he somehow had such amazing, like, you know, depth with film. And I know since switched to digital, you know, whatever, I'm not going to go on about focus, but the way he creates a scene with the haze and the like, there's layers to it, almost like a great painting with chiaroscuro. You know, that's the way, you know, Scott creates a set, and you know, the bits of neon in the background and all that stuff adds to such great atmosphere to make this truly a great thing to watch, and you can't stop watching it. You know, Tony Scott's never quite reached his brother as far as like pure beauty on screen, but like this movie
Try
just
adding
shows
a couple aliens.
Oh, come on, you know, unicorns with like fully dropping down.
Hey, let's throw some fucking aliens in there.
You don't have any aliens in your movie? How can you expect me to enjoy this? There's no fucking aliens.
No, I mean,
What's
even
the
like
stillion?
Black Rain, like look at Black Rain, like how much prettier that is to this movie. But the thing is though, it's like where Ridley Scott gets beauty, Tony Scott gets atmosphere, and that atmosphere just is something that Quentin Tarantino has never been able to capture, even in, you know, probably his most atmospheric movie. And again, I'm going to bring up Hateful Eight. I'm sorry. But yeah, I do
when
think
Quentin Tarantino enters a room, he drains the atmosphere.
the way that movie is shot, though, Hateful Eight is truly the only movie that kind of rivals True Romance as far as visuals go.
Okay. Well, let me just say, as the sun sets slowly in the west, we bid you farewell.